my name is Erica LaCentra. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer over at RCN Capital. RCN Capital is a nationwide wholesale lender specializing in fix and flip, DSCR, and new construction financing for investors. So a lot of what we talked about was some of the external economic factors that were happening versus a lot of the regulations. I know the panel prior to us was talking about the institutional investor ban that's kind of going through right now. A lot of what the panel talked about though was having that kind of control and discipline and really being able to see where the opportunities are in the market and being able to really kind of navigate some of those issues that are impacting the space. So it was interesting because I thought it was going to be a lot more about, doom and gloom, especially with the heavy topics that we were talking about. And a lot of what was talked about was just, it's going to be status quo. You just gotta buckle down in terms of where you're looking for opportunities, stick to more strict underwriting guidelines, and just, see where the next 6 months take us. So, a lot of what we focus on, and I think we're a little bit unique in the fact that we're a wholesale lender. So we're focusing mainly on some of those third-party originators, whether they're other small lenders or other brokers. And so what we do is we focus on folks that really know the different markets that they're operating within. So as a nationwide lender, it can be kind of difficult when you're underwriting all across the country. So we're leaning on those third-party originators to really know their markets, understand the structures of their deals, and really bring us those top quality clients. So that's been a lot of our strategy, is identifying those key players in different strongholds that we want to expand into, rather than trying for us to push in directly. So that's been a huge game changer for us. From that perspective, it gives you a lot more to lean on when you have folks that are really familiar with those different market areas and know those numbers, whereas you might have business development folks and some of the retail channels that are going out and expanding into markets, which can be a lot harder of a push. AI is such a hot topic. Obviously, it's impacting every area of the market, but marketing especially. We're finding that there's just so many use cases for it. And just at a basic level, just improving upon, how much content we can produce, and just being able to repurpose content easily, where, you would have somebody that's, taking content articles and reformatting them. It can be done so much easier using AI and leveraging. But I think a lot of what we're doing now is leveraging data tools and being able to better pinpoint our different audiences, where people's interest is, what products they want, and being able to really do better targeting with the marketing that we're doing to folks, where, a lot of that would take our team combing through our database and figuring out and, going through our CRM. And we can do that so much faster now, create those lists that are really targeted and really cultivate content and messaging that really speaks to them. And it is just so incredible how fast technology is moving. I've been in the space for over a decade, and just the speed at which we can do these things now, it is remarkable. So I'm really excited about it. I know that a lot of marketers are a little bit concerned about AI and saying oh, it's going to take over our jobs, but I think a lot of the differentiation we're seeing is still having that human touch and that human intervention. And that's super important, but being able to really cultivate more pinpointed lists and audiences and content for those people, it feels really personalized, at mass, which is incredible. So it's been quite an interesting journey, and I think, being in it for over a decade, we saw coming out of the housing market crash, and that being a really interesting time for the evolution of the SFR space. And we kind of saw, that wave, and a lot of people come into the space from a financing perspective. And it was almost a space where you couldn't help but make money. And then things kind of kept going, and then we hit COVID, and that obviously changed the game. Brought rates down tremendously after COVID. So again, we were kind of in an environment where you couldn't help but make money as long as you had some inkling of what you were doing. And now the space continues to mature. Things are kind of tightening, margins are tightening. housing depreciation is happening across markets that were once really hot. So we're seeing a lot of the folks that, were booming during that time where it was just very easy, kind of backing off of the space. We're seeing more sophisticated investors really capitalizing on opportunities. And, as lenders, we're just kind of continuing to figure out. We're much more sophisticated with our underwriting guidelines, and it's really interesting because it really has kind of been that almost like roller coaster. But I think especially being in the industry for over a decade, we've matured so much. We have a much better understanding of what we're looking for a borrower profile, what products are really moving in the marketplace, and what investors really want from a financing perspective. And it's just been so interesting to watch that evolution. I think it's really a matter of educating yourself about just what the implications of what that legislation is. I know when it was proposed, a lot of folks were like, oh my God, this is going to kill our industry. And I think, a lot of it and the way it's being worded or how the bills are shaking out, like there are still a lot of opportunities, and really understanding the nuances of what isn't affected is massive. I think from our space though too, a lot of what we want to do too is educate legislators in terms of, this industry is more mature than you realize, and while there's obviously some of that negative connotation in terms of what we're doing, there's a lot of good in what we're doing too. So I think it goes both ways. One, doing what we can to be able to educate legislatures and the legislature, and trying to, I don't want to say bend that to what we need it to be, but just make it so that there still continues to be that opportunity and they're not completely closing things off. But I think for investors and lenders too, like educating yourselves in terms of what this is and isn't affecting, and really capitalizing on the opportunities that still exist, and knowing what those opportunities are is tremendous. So both of those things are very near and dear to me, especially the Mortgage Women's Council. That's a pretty new initiative that's going on, but I think, being in the industry for over a decade, and just seeing how much it's grown from the perspective of women participating too, I think it's taken great strides, and I just love being somebody that can offer mentorship or be more of a role model, because that was almost lacking when I joined the industry 10 years ago. And I think, there's so much opportunity. Women should be in the space. They have a lot of great information and, insight to bring to it. So like I said, it's one of those things that's near and dear to me. I do it on the side, and just being able to be someone that can be a resource for women either coming into the space or, someone just pick someone's brain. It's huge. It's tremendous for me. And I have a big marketing team. The majority are women, so I started that, and we do a lot of events and things, and kind of mentoring people there and kind of navigating all of that. And I really wanted to be able to find organizations or associations where I could kind of do that at a larger scale, because like I said, there are much more opportunities and greater visibility of women, I would say, but just having those kind of resources is really big to be able to lean on, and I think it's so important.